Hello, everyone. Just want to welcome Chris Delisle from Chris Cooking Nashville. If any of you don't know who he is, you really got to check out his channel because he is absolutely amazing. He has some amazing techniques and recipes. And wow, Sana and I are so happy to have him on here. And Chris, how are you doing?
Oh, Cindy, thank you so much for having me. Hello, Sana. I'm doing fantastic. How are you all today?
I'm good.
Yes,
I'm
doing
excited.
great. Now that it's Friday, doing great. And definitely welcome Chris and welcome everybody in the chat. As Cindy
Yeah.
said, it's such a huge pleasure to have Chris on. We've definitely been excited. We've definitely been looking forward because we've definitely tried his recipes as well. And anyone that does not know of him, I put his link in the chat. I'll be doing it throughout the live stream. But definitely, if you don't know of him already, you are missing out on your proper human diet journey.
Yes.
His
And
recipes
please,
are simple and amazing.
as you come up with questions for Chris, please precede them with question marks, like it says on the scrolling thing, so I can pick them out. I'm going to try to get to all the chat. This must be for you because we can't get members yet. So you have a new member, Chris.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Hello, D Dun 32. So glad you joined.
Yes. PA Beater, hello.
There he is.
Evening, all. That's Sana. There's Jason. Good evening, Jason. Good morning. I think I'm a different time zone somewhere. No, Lynn, it doesn't get any better than Chris. I'll tell you. Enjoying your mashed potatoes for dinner, Chris.
Yes, yes.
I'll tell
Lynn,
you.
Lynn has been there since the beginning of my channel. She
Mm.
is not only is she on my channel, she always comes over and follows us on Ash's channel when we do the music stuff as well. She's a
Yep.
die-hard fan,
She's
so
everywhere.
Yes,
she
She
is.
she
is
She's
everywhere.
is.
great.
She is such a supportive blessing to so
Yes,
many channels. Lynn is just absolutely amazing.
yes, she is.
Just watch Wes's review of your mac and cheese.
Yeah.
You can tell when Wes likes something, his whole face just lights up. It's
Yes.
great.
Oh,
It's
yes.
great. Hello from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hello,
Yeah.
Judy. Just Jason Cuter. Everybody saying hello. Kathy Roberts. Hello, Chris and
Yeah.
others. Hello. Kimberly Meyer saying hello. Vicky Y. Chris is great. I agree. Ashley has got to be one of the luckiest people. I can tell you. I have to
Uh,
do the cooking here. It's like, phew,
I understand. I understand. She's really
Alicia
good at
Grace.
doing dishes. So, and she actually enjoys that. I hate doing the dishes. She's like, before we were ever married or anything, she's like, I find dishes very relaxing. And I was like, that's great because I love to cook and I hate dishes. So,
That's
Well, I
like
have to do
me. That's
both.
like the arrangement
So,
over here.
yeah.
so Sana has shared Chris's channel, my channel, as well as her channel.
Yeah.
This is my sister Deb, Cindy Sana, and welcome, Chris.
Yes. Hello, Deb.
Hi, Shelly. Saying
Welcome,
hi to
Shelley.
Chris. What are we going to be learning today, Chris?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure we can come up with something to talk about.
Oh, yes. Well, we're going to get there, but originally we usually have people tell their stories and what got you started on keto, ketovore, carnivore,
Proper
Yeah.
human
how
diet.
long, proper human
Yeah.
diet. Yeah, we are two of the people here. We're on opposite spectrums here. Well, she used to be strictly carnivore, now
Mhm.
has incorporated some vegetables. I have been ketovore, and because I like keto chow.
Mhm.
It's not going anywhere. And Chalk Zero, which I have to put it in perspective here.
Sure.
It's good. Hello from Portland, Texas. Love your programs, Chris. Yes.
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 Most
Shelly
definitely.
Rocks
Agree.
Cleveland here. Hello, Shelly. My friend Hubs is bringing me home a Jimmy John's gargantuan, on which I love those things. Have you
Nice.
Have you had one of those? I know you probably don't eat the lettuce anyway. So
You know, I used to eat Jimmy John's all the time, and I did occasionally get those. Those are very good.
yes, my husband and I have gone down and gotten them a few times. They are a
But
match made in
they'll do a
heaven.
meat and cheese roll up because that's what I've done on carnivore.
Yeah.
Nice.
They're
Howdy,
accommodating.
folks. Hi, Bruce and Sherry. Sherry. I met her at the Ohio meetup. She is so sweet. That was great. All right. So, Chris,
Mm.
tell us your story. What got you started,
Yeah.
and then how you come up with these techniques.
Yeah.
Because, wow.
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, a massive thank you to Cindy and Sana for asking me to just come and do a Q&A. I love both of you and appreciate your support. And you know, this whole community is all about support and just being able to share what we all know and what we all find as we rediscover this. And for any of my followers that are watching, especially if you're seeing this, I streamed this to my channel as well, so we could get the word out. And if any of you are watching this, go over to Cindy and Sana's channels and subscribe and show them some of the Chris Cook in Nashville love, because they do some awesome stuff and they talk to amazing people in the space. And I just think it's great when we can all just support each other and share and just be friends. So make sure to go show them Chris Cook in Nashville love. But so for me, I have always been a foodie. And my parents are foodies. I was the kid when I was young who I never ordered off kids' menus because I didn't want any of that stuff. I ate off of the regular menu like my parents did. I tried anything and everything. I pretty much have to travel to another country to find foods that I have not had before, because I just was one of those people. I wanted to try everything. But along with that passion for food, also ended up becoming a very severe carbohydrate addiction that I did not understand, I didn't know about. And so over a number of years of my life, I was eating all of this stuff, and I loved trying new cuisines, and I loved learning to cook things. My family cooks a lot of stuff because I come from a small town of like 800 people. There are no like interesting restaurants around there, right? There's not even a stoplight in the town, so we certainly don't have like authentic Indian food or something. So we would try things when we would travel, but a lot of times my parents would learn to cook things because we could order ingredients online, or we could, you know, find them in specialty stores like in the Cincinnati area, because I'm from that southeastern Indiana part near Cincinnati. And you know, you go to a big enough city, you can find those things. And so we would
Yeah, I'm
learn to.
from Cincinnati
Yeah, super cool.
originally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super cool part of the world. Lots of business and stuff goes through there, so you can find some pretty diverse stuff there, and that's what we would do. And so we would go and get these things and cook. And so I started learning to cook. I mean, I started learning to cook when I was old enough to sit on the counter when my mom would cook. And when I was
Mhm.
first born, like my parents had no money. My dad had just gotten out of the Air Force. You know, he was in training to go into the FAA and be an air traffic controller. They had no money. And so, you know, he would like go and hunt deer, and they would pack the freezer full of deer meat. And then my mom would, you know, buy things that were on sale, use coupons. You know, back in the day when you had to do all of that stuff by paper because the internet wasn't a thing,
Mhm.
Right.
you know, in everybody's homes. And so we would buy stuff, and she would learn recipes because she could go to the library, check out books for free. And you know, it was a way for her to be entertained with me at home. And so I would learn to cook things with her from the time I was like 3 or 4 years old.
Wow.
And when I was about four, we used to play this game. She would take spices off of this spice rack that somebody, I think, had given her for like her wedding, you know, gift or something like that when my parents got married. And so she had all these different spices on this, and so she would take spices off the rack, cover the label, unscrew the lid, and let me smell it. And I would guess which spice it was. And by the time I was about 4.5 years old, I'd pretty much memorized her entire spice rack by smell.
Wow.
And
Oh, I
yeah, and
love
so
that.
it was a lot of fun for me as a kid. And you know, without realizing it, it started training me to do all this. So my love of food was, you know, very variety heavy and
Mhm.
all these things. So I went away to college, and you know, I did kind of what everybody does and gained that freshman 15. And you know, I'd gotten away with eating all of this junk because of carbohydrates for a long time. I mean, I was in Taekwondo. You know, I was a second degree black belt in Taekwondo, and an instructor in this class, and so I was working out all the time, and I was like, you know, 2 pounds away from having a six pack, and like, you know, I was in great shape when I was 17. And then I went to college and I stopped working out all the time and I got busy doing studies and, all these other things. And I was eating a lot of fast food and it fed into the carbohydrate addiction and it got worse and worse. And then, life stress and job stress, and I gained a lot of weight. And so I was trying to get my health under control. And it was back when I was probably 25, 26, something like that. I did a 28-day juice fast. I was living in Key West, Florida, working in higher education at the time at a college down there. I was the director of campus life and running a residence life program and other things on campus, and super stressful job. And so I found my way into the raw vegan juicing world. And so I did a 28-day juice fast of nothing but raw vegan juice. And it was a plan that you followed, and I made it through, and I lost some weight, and I felt better. Now, at the time, of course, I didn't know anything like I know now about keto and carnivore and what that was actually doing to me. I just knew I felt better, and so I thought, okay, well, this is great. And that's not something you can stick with long term. There's no way to just drink raw vegan juices long term and also be healthy without nutritional deficiency. You cannot do both of those things simultaneously. But I did feel a lot better, I think, because I had cut out so much like processed junk and seed oils, and it's like, even if I was getting massive amounts of carbohydrates from all the fruit sugar, it was probably still less than what I was doing by going through the drive-through every day.
Yep.
And so it took me a number of more years before I stumbled onto the whole keto thing. My parents actually found out about keto before I did, and they were telling me about it. And they were like, hey, you should go watch this guy, Dr. Barry. And he's got really great info and all this kind of stuff. So the pandemic hit, and Ash lost her job, and I lost my job, and we lost both of our businesses, and the music industry completely shut down for like a year and a half, and it came back very slowly. We lost the house that we were renting because the landlord decided to sell it out from underneath of us. My car blew up, and so we basically needed to buy a new car at the worst time in history. And yeah, and I mean, it was basically like everything in our lives just tanked. And we lived off credit cards and did everything we could just to try to stay in Nashville, Tennessee, because we're both professional musicians, and that's why we were here. So temporarily, I started a bakery, a micro bakery out of our home, because in Tennessee, the cottage food laws are very kind to you if you do things that are shelf stable, at least for short term, like bread. And you could sell things like this out of your home. So I got into making sourdough bread, and then it accidentally turned into a micro bakery business that kept us afloat. And so, long story short, we ended up losing that business as well, because it was so hard to sustain anything, and we were just desperate. And so the only thing we could really do was try to control our health. And I ended up getting a job working. I do private security for a private university, like armed security, first responder type stuff. So not a sworn officer, but I do first responder safety and security stuff. And we basically had nothing and didn't know what we were going to do. But it's like, well, the one thing we can try to do is work on our health. And we thought, well, maybe it'll actually save us some money too. At this point, and you can see on my channel in some of the before and after pictures that I share, I was so massively sick and inflamed and overweight. I was pushing close to 400 pounds. And I actually may have been 400 pounds at one point, but you get to a point you just stop weighing because it is so depressing, and you just hate what you see on the scale. You hate what you see in the mirror. And it was like, well, I just don't care anymore. If I die tomorrow, I guess I die tomorrow. And your brain is inflamed and it's just totally out of control, and that's where I was. And this is one of the things, when people say like Ash is really lucky, I always say I'm the one who feels really lucky and really blessed to have her, because that's when she fell in love with me, was when I was at my lowest and my worst and my heaviest. And she saw the potential that I had and all these things. And she had health issues too, so it's not like the hot girl and the guy who's not taking care of himself. Like we both had our things we were dealing with, but she really encouraged me to take care of myself, and kind of one of her things was like, listen, I love you and I want to be with you, but if you can't take care of yourself, how would I ever trust you could take care of me? And that was a real serious conversation with she and I had.
Mhm.
And
That
so
was a real slap in the face conversation.
Yeah.
it was. It was. There were a couple of those that I really needed, and she
Mhm.
is. I mean, she has an incredible story of her own, but she has come through way too much in her life to just
Right.
throw it all away for some guy who wouldn't take care of himself. And I realized we have got to do this. And so she was out of a stressful job. I was out of stressful jobs. We had no money, so we
Yeah.
were going to have to cook at home anyway. And it's like, well, if we're going to do this, let's learn about this. And so I was able, because I was working late shifts, I was working from 3 p.m. until 11 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday, which kills your ability to be a musician, but there was no music industry at the time anyway, so, it didn't really matter. But because I was in a patrol vehicle and I was rolling around and doing my thing, unless I was on an active call, I could easily plug my phone in to the Bluetooth system of the patrol vehicle that I was in, and I could put Dr. Barry's videos on the back in the background like a podcast. And I started learning about
Yeah.
keto and all of the low carb things and this
Mm.
proper human diet stuff. And so I went to her and I said, I think we need to try this. And she said, great, let's do it. So we actually started by doing a juice fast because, again, I had no clue what I was doing. And so we started a juice fast. We were going to do that and then transition into keto, do like a cleanse with juice and then
Mhm.
go into keto. And we were 3 weeks into the 28 days, and I came home one day and she was like, I can't do this. Please, I just can't. And she was like, I'm so sorry, I can't. She was literally the point of tears, which, I mean, you can imagine starving yourself with nothing but drinking juices like that, like how much, especially, for a woman's body. I mean, it's one thing as a guy, but when you have like the way hormones in women's bodies react to that kind of stuff, like it's way harder, I believe. Like, obviously, I don't know, but from
Mhm.
watching her, I'm like, I cannot imagine being a female that has the balance of hormones that a female's body does and trying to do that. And I mean, she was a trooper, but she was just in tears and she thought she was going to make me fail. And I said, I don't care. Who cares about the juice? Like, that doesn't matter. I want you to be happy and healthy. So we immediately we took avocados that were in the house that were meant to go into this like smoothie of the juice stuff that we do, and we ate avocados, and immediately she was like, I feel so much better, just because it was like actually just chewing on something and eating
Mhm.
some
Right.
nutrition, and it was more of that than you would normally have gotten during the day with the juice anyway. The
Right.
very next day, I went and got lettuce and salmon fillets, and I did like salads with salmon because we wanted to. You have to be careful when you go from a juice fast into solid food, what food you eat, because it'll plug you up.
Mhm.
So, so we did that, and immediately we started feeling better. So we went keto, and we went strict keto, and I had been studying all this stuff from Dr. Barry. We started losing weight, everything was great, and we started feeling amazingly better. And then it was getting close to time for us to get married, and I wanted to look as good for my wedding pictures as I could, and I thought, well, I need to lose a few more pounds. And I'd been hearing about carnivore through Dr. Barry's videos, and so I said, well, let me do this for like 3 or 4 weeks before the wedding, just try to lose a few extra pounds, and that was really the only thing. And about a week and a half into it, I came across the Jordan Peterson Joe Rogan interview
Mm.
where Jordan Peterson is talking about this incredible mental health thing that happened for him and Michaela, for him and his daughter with carnivore and specifically with the lion diet. And I was like, what is all this? And then within a few days, I was like, I'm kind of noticing something here. And so I didn't say anything to Ash. I was like, do you feel like something's different about me? And she goes, well, I didn't want to say anything because I thought maybe it was just me. But she goes, you seem like a very different person. She's like, you wake up from like a nap or something and you're smiling.
Mm.
And I've never seen that as long as I've known you. And something changed. And I just had this massive awakening in my brain. And it was like, I could see the positivity in life and I could see
Mhm.
all this stuff. I had mental energy, I had physical energy. We took the dog out for a walk one time, and I said, "Here, hand me the leash." And she said, "Okay." And I took the dog and I started to run. And I ran over to this dog park we were headed to. And she comes walking and catches up. And she looks at me, she goes, "We've been together for 3.5 years, and I've never seen you run before." And it was like
Wow.
all of this stuff changed. So now I did not deal with my carbohydrate addiction. So I did carnivore for a while, and then I started letting myself have little things here and there after the wedding, and now it's not as big of a deal now, and I'll get back on,
Mhm.
and I made the excuses. And next thing you know, I lost about 80 pounds, I guess, the first time that I did this. And I had gained all the way back up to 345 pounds by the time I realized, like, this is out of control again. And so I gained a bunch of weight and I realized, okay, this is more than just eat carnivore, get skinny. I need to deal with my addiction issue. And so I really had to say, okay, there is a problem here that I am going to have to address. And so I looked at her. We were getting ready to move out of the apartment that we had ended up in during the pandemic. It was not really a safe neighborhood, and we were so blessed to be able to get out of there. And we were getting ready to move in, a few months. And I looked at her and I said, I'm not going to be able to carry our stuff up and down stairs. I can't. I'm in too much pain. And I said, I know we're trying to save money, but I have got to go back to doing carnivore. And she said, great, I'm in full support. She's like, you need to do carnivore and I need to go back to keto. And so we said, oh, okay. And we dove in and I went basically standard American diet, addicted to carnivore overnight.
How long ago was that?
So that would have been January of last year.
Mhm.
And so I did 365 days carnivore, no cheat meals, no keto meals, no snackies, no, none of that stuff. And I give myself some more flexibility now because I wanted to hit my 365-day goal to, one, heal everything. Two, I ended up putting it all on YouTube, and so I wanted to show everybody, like, here's my journey. But three, I really needed to deal with my carbohydrate addiction because it's one thing if there's like, a smidgen of carbs that are in some food that I eat that's on the proper human diet spectrum. It's another thing if I'm eating carbs because I'm addicted to them. So I tried to deal with that and I did this whole thing. And in the process of this, Ash and I, being independent musicians, you have to run your business very intentionally. Like there's no record labels, there's no publishers, there's no A&R people, there's no marketing teams. Like it is all you. And if you are not intentional about making sure, if you're not
Just
intentional,
playing around here.
that's right,
I'm
that's right.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Zoom in on YouTube. Just don't zoom in on me. Nobody wants to see me.
Yeah, they do.
But if you don't do all of your own running your business stuff intentionally, it will fall apart and it will not go anywhere. So we do a thing every year. We sit down and we set up yearly goals and we revisit our goals every quarter. Every 3 months we sit down just like a business meeting with a board and we talk about quarterly goals. So the first thing that I said was I want to have a cooking channel on YouTube because I've just always loved it and I've just always thought that would be a cool thing to do. And YouTube is where I go for a majority of my, learning skills in my life because it's such a cool resource if you put it to use.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was super cool. And I was like, I would love to, do a cooking channel. Even if it was like 2 videos a year, I didn't care. I just wanted to do that. But then
We
I
are
was also
so glad you did.
well, I am too, because it's turned into such an amazing journey for me. And, and that all started because I was like, not only do I want to have the channel, but if I'm going to do this carnivore thing, I told Ash, I said, I want to go 365 days without cheating, just to prove to myself I can do it. And I was like, on top of that, I want people to hold me accountable. And that's not something that's very easy when it's like me and my wife. Like she can kind of do it, but it's like it's one-on-one right there. Like if I'm really
Right.
going down a dark road of carb addiction, like I'm not going to hear what she says. So I said I need to put myself in a situation where I am accountable to as many people as I can be. And I said I'm going to do a health vlog that will hopefully lead me in the direction of doing my cooking channel. And then I was like, I guess my cooking channel will be keto and carnivore instead of, just a regular cooking channel like I had initially thought years ago it would be. But I'm going to do a health vlog because it's going to show people my journey. And I was like, one, it will keep me accountable. And two, maybe it will inspire a couple of other people if they happen to see it. And that would make me happy to think that what I've gone through could be something that could be used by someone else to pull themselves up out of that deep, dark place where I knew that I had been, and maybe I could save somebody else a little bit of trouble of getting there too. So
Right. I'm sure that's why, I know that's why I started my channel is to hopefully help someone
yeah,
and Sana as well.
yeah,
I just want to say hi to a couple people.
yeah.
There's Debbie Savings is here. Dustin.
There he is.
Yep. Debbie Farnsworth from Garland, Texas. She loves your carnivore pancakes. Yes. Jen Wren Scraps just ate a second day of carnivore. Any pro tips? Sana and Chris, that's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to let our guests go first.
So I think, I mean, on the second day, when you're that brand new to it, it's hard to know specifically how to tailor tips because everyone's going to have a little bit of a different experience. I would say number one, there's most likely going to be some days in front of you somewhere. I don't know how bad they'll be or what they'll be, but there may be some days where you're going to struggle a little bit. And that is okay. Knowing that that is okay and not being afraid of struggling a little bit. And even if something happens that you're like, oh no, I went off the rails and I ate a cupcake. Now what do I do? You just pretend it didn't happen and you keep going right back to carnivore and you refuse to let anything beat you down. And instead, in return, you continue to just be relentless and beat it back and just do it a little bit at a time every day. Get a little better every day. And realize you are worth the time and the effort it takes to do that, and not doing it perfectly has nothing to do with you being a failure.
right. I'm not a carnivore. However, Dr. Berry has even said he will cheat on carnivore with keto.
Yes.
So, no one's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You do the best you can with what you've got.
Yep.
And you just go with it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've been keto for 3.5 years. Have lost 100 pounds, got off of blood pressure meds after 50 years on them. I'm 65 years old and I feel better than I did in my 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
So Sana, what would you say to this?
I would definitely, chime in also, like Chris said, do not be hard on yourself in the beginning. A huge congratulations that you made it to the second day.
Yes.
And you still are wanting to push forward. That is huge right there, even for second day in. I would say embrace the simplicity. Focus on your favorite cuts of fatty meats. Definitely, anyone that tries to say, oh, this way of eating is expensive. No, if you strategize properly by keeping things simple, shop your sales. I've shared on my channel, there is an app called Flip, FLIPP. You can simply put in your zip code and keyword search. So you can put in like ground beef, you can put in steak, and it will give you the weekly sales in your area for whatever might be on sale for what you're keyword searching. So definitely, it does take a little bit of work if you're wanting to stay on budget to shop your sales, but best believe we save a lot of money by just focusing on the protein. And since, I've become pregnant, I started incorporating some veg now and doing more so ketovore, and we still save a huge amount of money, even with protein being priority and veg kind of being a little bit of secondary. But definitely be kind to yourself and reach out to the community. Everybody, for the most part, is supportive. Everybody, for the most part, is not going to be judgmental. So as Chris said, do not focus on any little slip-ups or hiccups on the journey. Just keep moving forward and just know that you absolutely deserve it. But I would definitely say try to keep things simple. That way, if you did have any issues prior to carnivore that you're trying to heal, definitely give your body that transition period to focus on the healing. So keep things as simple as you can, even initially with seasonings. So when I initially started, I only salted my foods and I didn't start incorporating seasonings, single ingredient seasonings, until over 60 days in, because I wanted my body to simply have that healing period and then start to singly reintroduce and do a full-blown reintroduction phase.
And don't feel you have to go all out and steaks all the time. Just
Oh yeah.
ground beef, hot dogs.
Yeah.
That's keep it
And that's
within your means so it's not unbearable.
Like Cindy's saying, and that's what Dr. Berry promotes as well. You
Yeah.
know, even if you have to stick within your budget and hot dogs and Any of your cheaper cuts of meat, if that's all you can afford, that is
Mhm.
fine. That is fine. That's still proper human diet. That's still carnivore. You're still doing
Now,
your very best.
Barbecue Man, I believe Sana had posted
Yeah.
all our channels in the chat.
Yep. I did post it after that question as
Okay,
well.
got
So
that one.
it's there.
Susie's
Yep.
here. Hi, Susie. Says happy Friday. Just trying to get caught up, and we'll get right back with Chris.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying hi. Keto Simple, Dustin. He calls me his bonus mom because I'm so old. Chris, how did you successfully quit carbs and sugar?
Yeah, that's that's a tricky question. I don't. You have to be careful, I think, sometimes about ever saying that you successfully quit them. I think you learn to, when you're like me, you learn to control the fact that you don't eat them because you know there's an addiction there. But I can tell you right now, if I started chugging Mountain Dew like I used to, I would probably end up right back in that place. So I think what I did was I worked my way away from it, and I started figuring out. If you watch Dr. Robert Saives, he talks about like addiction a lot and carb addiction, and he talks about when you take away one addiction,
Right.
you leave an empty space for something else to come in. And he's like, you take something that was a big part of your personality, whether that's good or bad, you take it away and you leave an empty hole. Well, now you feel like you're an empty human being. So he's like, if you need to take soda away and then you realize drinking iced coffee is a better replacement for it and there's no carbs in it, and you're like, well, I'm trying to go carnivore. Okay, I get that, but that is not the time to take that coffee and like jerk that away from you as well. Find a realistic set of steps to like work your way in the direction of where you're trying to get to, and don't beat yourself up along the way. That's exactly what I had to do. And even though I went carnivore, I was using recipes and cooking in the kitchen and maybe more dairy than I would normally want and those kinds of things to help smooth that transition out.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
RF, I'm a type 1 diabetic, 59, trying to get in better shape, eating mainly ground beef steaks, etc. Was losing weight but leveled off. I noticed my biceps keep getting firmer, worried about heart disease. Don't, unless you have a reason to, I would say don't. My husband's a type 1 diabetic. He's 62. Yeah. He just turned 62 this month. And he's in he's in great shape. I would not worry about it unless
Yeah.
there is reason to do so.
Mm-hmm. If you're really
Definitely.
concerned
Mhm.
about heart stuff, Dr.
Right.
Philip Ovadia is a great resource
Yes.
to go look at him talking about how keto and carnivore have nothing to do with heart disease. Because obviously none of us are doctors, but he
And
is.
he is going to be on April 17th with us.
I saw that. That's super cool. That's
I'm
exciting.
so excited.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's got great information. Dr. Barry has great information on heart disease as well. Like that's where I would go. And here's what I used to do. I'd watch Dr. Barry's videos, and then I'd click on the research notes in his
Yeah.
description boxes, and I'd go and read everything that he was talking
Mhm.
about for myself, just to prove to myself that he wasn't lying. And then I learned I could trust what he was saying.
Oh, he's always got proof in his videos. Always.
Awesome.
Exactly. I
So
agree.
good.
Do not worry. I know it's hard after decades of everything that we were convinced of. Definitely, like Chris is saying, definitely check out Dr. Ovadia. Do your own research. No matter what any healthcare professional is telling you, do your own research.
Yep. Come back on the 17th of April. Dr. Ovadia will be here to answer your questions.
Absolutely.
I am psyched, I'll tell you.
That's going to be
Just
a good
like
one.
today. Happy Friday, doing great. This is Rick.
Rick.
Greetings, all. I got to try to keep remembering these names. And then everybody's talking amongst, checking to see if there's any more questions. Everybody's replying to him.
There's a couple mixed in.
Linda Khan, hi, Chris, Cindy, and Sana. I follow Chris Cooking Nashville. I'm glad to be introduced to you two ladies. Thank you so much, Linda.
Yes.
Looking forward to
Nice to
learning
meet you
more
as well,
about
Linda.
you both as well. Thank you so much. Lynn says, I sure wish I could have tasted some of that stuff from when Chris had his own bakery. It probably wasn't that keto stuff though.
No, definitely not. What's funny is I started keto right before we got rid of the bakery. So for a few months, I was actually the baker that didn't eat carbs.
It's that that would be so tough. I have avoided. Now we just moved to Kentucky in 2021 in October
Mhm.
from New Hampshire. And right up the road from us, and we go past it all the time, there's this donut shop that says Best Donuts. That's the name
Oh
of
my
the
gosh.
place. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't.
Mhm.
And then they opened up a new one down the road that my neighbor says, "Oh, they're really good." I'm like, no, 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 no. Can't do that. That would probably be the one thing that would
And that's bad for you because you got a sweet tooth, Cindy.
I love. Yeah, that's why I like Chalk Zero because it satisfies that sweet tooth instead of going to a
Mhm.
Reese cup or a Hershey
Yeah.
bar or all
Mhm.
the other stuff. And I'm sorry if I'm triggering anybody right now. But Sana, if you see any other questions, because I do not.
There,
I see
there's
comments
a
where people are
couple
communicating
mixed
back and
in.
forth. Hey, Beater, I made Chris's whipped taters, and even my wife likes them better than regular taters.
That's awesome.
That's a
I'll
huge
tell you,
win.
I made those mashed potatoes. They are absolutely amazing.
That's a huge win. When you could bring something that's proper human diet to standard American diet people and they love it and they
Yeah.
want to know the recipe.
Yep. Well, when I came up with that recipe, my mom started making it, and my parents, it's them and my 95-year-old grandfather. And, I mean, he's like very late in his life here. And, they honestly, a lot of the times he eats sugar and just junk and, all that kind of stuff. He has his whole life. But he's in actually relatively good health, all things considering, for being 95. But
Mm.
getting enough protein and that kind of stuff is difficult for him. So they made my version of mashed potatoes, and he actually liked them better than the regular mashed potatoes my mom made at the same time. So they were side by side on the plate. She said, "Here's
Mhm.
Christopher's, here's the regulars," and he was like, "I actually like these better." And he said, "Boy,
That's
you couldn't."
awesome.
He's like, "You can't eat very many of them though." And I was like, "Okay, sure, they're heavy on the dairy, but I mean, you're talking about a 95-year-old man who's getting
Yeah.
egg white protein and dairy
Hmm.
fat and things he's
Mhm.
not normally getting. Like, heck, that's a win
Huge.
right there."
Yeah.
Multiple traumatic events. Much better. That's awesome, Rick.
Yeah, so happy for you, Rick.
Yes. Sherry, my mom is considering keto. She needs breakfast ideas. She does not like eggs. His pancakes. Chris's pancakes, Sherry, they're amazing.
Yep, you can do
Oh
the
my
pancakes,
word.
and then once you get the pancakes down, if you have someone who likes like pancakes and sausage and bacon and that kind of stuff, you can do the Chris griddles where you use the pancakes and make like the McGriddle knockoff. Just don't put
Hmm.
the eggs in it.
Right,
That's
right, right.
that's a great sandwich.
I haven't done that yet. I haven't tried them in the mini waffle maker yet, but
Mm,
I'm going to.
there you
That's that recipe is sitting on my island. It doesn't move. It's like it's right. My
go.
husband, when he
Waiting.
first tried it, the first time I made those pancakes, and I put it in my video, he says, "Now these are pancakes." He's across the room from me because I'm still cooking mine, and he takes a bite. He said, "Now these are pancakes," and I'm like,
Well, he's letting you
"Okay."
know what you have to look forward to.
That's
He
right.
loves them. Oh my word! So we've made them a couple times. Jesus is coming soon. That's great advice, Chris. I always given up when I mess up. I always have given
Hmm.
up when I mess up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
don't give up on yourself. Don't.
Mm-mm.
You are
And
No.
deserving of every healing that you're going to have to look forward to. Do not give up on yourself. Just
and
because of one day or like one slip up experience.
Yeah,
No.
don't just go right back. It's
yeah,
quitters never win. And
no, and
that's the one thing that I keep, telling everybody quitters never win. And
and
you
and
want to
here's
win.
here's the thing. So I did my stuff. I lost like 80 pounds. I gained over half of that back,
Mhm.
and just kind of went off the rails. But guess what? I came right back around to it eventually when
Yeah,
I got this up here right. And
exactly.
all of that weight and more came back off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can be
Mhm.
done. You don't have to let like those
Yeah,
momentary slip ups be something that define who you are, because that's not who you
exactly.
are. That was just a moment.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. You have to change your mentality.
Hmm.
Mary Mayer. Most of my problems are autoimmune. I'm 90 pounds less than my max now. That's amazing. I'm
Yeah,
keto, but
that's
want to
great.
be carnivore, but having a hard time committing to it. I get that, Mary.
Hmm.
I
Listen,
try.
you are proper human diet, and that
That's
right
right.
there is a huge victory.
Yes.
Do not be hard on yourself.
Obviously, keto has been successful because you're
Yeah,
90 pounds less than you were.
Hmm.
That's huge.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, try it for a week.
Yeah.
I tried it and I went for about 2 weeks and I'm like, this
And my question would be,
is
what
good.
do you feel is hard about you committing to carnivore? That would be my question. That's what I would be curious about.
Hmm.
I know my answer to that. It was too restrictive.
Hmm.
Not as restrictive as beef, butter, bacon, and eggs is,
Yes,
but still a bit restrictive when you're used to the
the
other stuff.
variety, right?
I think
So,
something that helps with this concept too of like it's hard to commit. Like I get that. That's also a thing you have to remember. It is not an all or nothing proposition as a carnivore. So
mhm,
like you could just start out, just do meat Mondays. Maybe only
Yeah,
on Mondays you go carnivore and the other 6 days a week you're keto.
yeah,
Because the collective benefit of you having more of a slightly leaning carnivore diet is spread across weeks and months and years of your
right.
life. It's not all just every single day and then you go back to the beginning if you mess up.
Yeah.
You collectively over time get better at this. So if you started just Mondays being all carnivore and then the other 6 days are keto,
Mm-hmm.
shoot, after a month or two, tack on another day. And after another month or two,
Yeah.
tack on another day. Before you
right.
realize it, you're carnivore and
Mhm.
it's, you can do that kind of stuff. If that makes it easier for you, like there's no set rules or right way of how you have to
Exactly.
learn this.
No,
Right.
you're just
Now,
doing whatever works for you.
Yep.
Mary, if you watch Wendy and Harry on Loving It on Keto, they mix up their days all the time. They
Yeah.
do
Oh, yeah.
some um, protein sparing modified fast
Mm-hmm.
days, they do some meat heavy
Right.
days, and then they do regular keto days. So
Yeah.
they all week long, they're changing it up every
Yeah.
day.
And they'll
Hmm.
chart it out. Like
And
you'll
it's,
see their
yeah,
calendar and they'll chart it out and share with
yeah.
everyone what variety
Hmm.
they're doing.
Shopping is definitely simpler as a carnivore, saves us money on the crappy food found in the aisles inside the store.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's
Because you're heading
keto too,
straight for
because
the
you don't
meat.
want to,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to go to the middle of the grocery store. Yellow bag frozen burger patties from Walmart and eggs work
Mm-hmm.
perfect. Yes,
Yep.
they do. Meat and
Exactly. Yeah.
eggs. Shop the manager
Yeah.
special. Hello, Jeff. Better
Yes.
late than
Welcome, Jeff.
never. Painting the hallway. When you're done painting yours, you can come and paint my house.
There you go.
They use, we have a house that was built in 2021. So it's pretty new construction when we got it. The paint they used is so cruddy.
Oh
It's
no.
like flat base. You can't wipe it down. You can't, it's just awful.
Mm.
It's awful. They use the cheapest thing they can. Carnivore does get easier as you go along. Also, don't feel like you need to fast or do OMAD. 3 meals a day is just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yes. Great advice.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you're familiar with Susie, Chris. She was on our channel. She doesn't have a channel, but
Okay.
she was on a live stream and she has done amazing, has had amazing progress.
That's so cool. There's so many people that have those stories, and it's
Mm-hmm.
great. And to the point of this comment that she made, this is a really good example of why my channel is what it is, why I do the recipes, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
if you want to be that really elite, like bodybuilder looking carnivore guy, sure, maybe you're going to do meat, salt, water, and you're going to go to
Right.
the gym every day. Guess what? I don't really care about that right now in my life.
Yes.
What I care about is feeling good and getting my health under
Mm-hmm.
control, controlling my carb addiction, being the husband I'm supposed to be, being the musician I'm supposed to be, hopefully someday getting to be the father I want to be. And those recipes and having fun in the kitchen and having that flexibility to play around and do these things, that's what
Mm-hmm.
makes this easier for me. And so it's like if you want to do the fasting, you want to do OMAD, you want to do any of those things, that's a great goal to have. But that
Right.
doesn't mean that you have to start that from the beginning. And if you if you listen to people who maybe take the approach of beating people over the head with that stuff and say it's this or nothing,
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult to get past that,
Mhm.
especially for most of us who are starting out on this. Like, there's no right elite pathway to this. If it's a goal for yours, work towards it. If it's not a goal for you, that's fine. But either way, just
Right.
take those little steps every day that make it easier for you to
Mm-hmm.
take your own health back. Because it's about you and your health and how you feel, not some influencer that says
Exactly.
this is the right way.
Right.
No,
There's
absolutely. I'm so happy that you mentioned that because that's very much it. We can motivate and inspire, but you very much have to self-analyze and do what is going to work for best for you and your body. And I think that's why some find it to be hard because they're
Mhm.
trying to kind of keep up with what someone else is doing
Yeah.
and kind of trying to measure up in comparison of what that other person is doing and what their victories are. No, you have to focus on your own because we all started completely different. We might have some similarities of what we were ailing from, but then
Hmm.
again, all of our bodies are so different. We all are so unique. So have your journey be unique to you. I'm
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so
you
glad you
got
mentioned that, Chris.
finding what works for you.
Yep.
Yeah, like carnivore
Exactly.
works for other people.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Doesn't always
think
work for everybody.
I think sometimes too, this is very easy to fall the wrong direction with when you're
Hmm.
watching people online because for me, and I think for a lot of
Right.
people, this goes back to the fact that if you're trying to change the way you live and the way you eat, it's probably because
Hmm.
there's something about what you're doing currently you don't like. But you have to
Yes.
remember, you can't look in the mirror and hate yourself and
Oh,
then look
yeah.
at these other people and think they're great, and so I got to do everything they do.
Right.
The first step to this is you look in the mirror and you go,
Hmm.
that person there might be sick, they might be
Yeah.
overweight, they might be struggling, but guess what? There's a really valuable person inside of there who's just
Hmm.
trying to get out, and I need to feed them the right stuff to get out. And it's worth doing that work, and it's worth taking the
Hmm.
time to do it a little at a time. And you
Yeah.
just got to remember to love yourself enough to say, it's okay. It's all
That's what
right
I
to
was
do
just
that.
going
Yeah.
to say. That person in the mirror is
Hmm.
loved also
Yeah.
Is
because
so
that's
deserving, right?
that's a hard one
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
when you
it
don't
is.
feel good about yourself. That is
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
hardest one
Yeah.
is to
There's
realize
it
that you
is.
are loved.
there's more times in my life that I can think of than I can even
Yeah.
count where I looked in the mirror and I hated what I saw.
Hmm.
And I mean, I would look at like the fat on my waist
Oh,
and
yeah.
the man boobs and just all of this stuff. And it's like, I'm fat, I'm sick, I'm disgusting, I'm this, I'm
Right.
that, whatever. I figured I would probably never get married, not because I didn't want to meet somebody, but because I wasn't worth it because I was too overweight and too
Yeah.
sick to have anyone ever look at me and be attracted. And once I got past all the brain fog and all the
Hmm.
junk that went along with my old diet, I realized that's ridiculous. I
Yeah.
just had to get all that stuff out of the way, and I had to start realizing that I had some value.
Right.
And once I did, and then I started putting it all over the
Hmm.
internet, then I ended up being
Yes.
here, and now it's like, that's anyone who watches my channel knows
Yeah.
I'll go in the comment section and I'll butt heads with some people that get judgmental. And
Hmm.
not
Yep.
because I want to fight, not because I'm trying to be mean,
Right.
but if you want to come onto the channel and you want to start telling people they're
Oh,
fat and they're
yeah.
sick and they're this and they're that, guess what? I
Hmm.
used to be that guy, and I don't put up with bullies anymore because
Right.
No,
I used to tolerate
exactly.
that, and I could hear their voices in my head when I'd lay down to go to
Hmm.
sleep at night, thinking I
Right.
wasn't good enough. And it's like, you know
Yeah.
what? All these fat, sick people that are in
Yeah.
my comment section
Yeah.
struggling, I love those
Yeah.
people, and I will fight for them because
Right.
sometimes they're not ready to fight for themselves, so I'll do it for them.
Exactly. Yeah, because we don't see ourselves as deserving. I can very much relate with you, Chris, because I was over 330 pounds
Hmm.
and I'm only 5 foot. So you can only imagine what a misery it was to be over 330 pounds and only to be 5 foot.
Yeah.
So to have lost over 147 pounds, and
Hmm.
definitely that was a mix of keto and carnivore that helped me get there. But I tell people, because my husband, he's only like 150-ish pounds. So to think I've lost like the equivalent of him,
Yeah.
I would have never saw that for myself. I
Yeah.
would have
Mhm.
never thought I was very much somebody that avoided pictures being taken of me because
Hmm.
anytime, I saw the image of myself, I was even more disgusted.
Yeah.
And still, you would have thought it would have pushed me to make changes. But because your mentality is not there, that you feel that you're deserving of anything better. So you don't seek for anything better. You know, it had to
Yep.
take for our son to get sick for us to take on this journey. So it's definitely it's not easy. So that's why, you know, even for the mention of being second day on carnivore, I'm going to applaud that
Yeah.
second day because it's huge that you saw that you were deserving to even
Yeah.
start this. That is a huge step in itself right there.
Absolutely. Well, you know, in the music industry, when you're trying to get like songs cut by major artists or
Mm,
you're trying to get your own songs on the radio or any of these kinds of things, everyone thinks like, okay, you get a song in the Billboard top 10, you have a party. Then you hit your first number one, you have a party. And it's like, great. But why don't we celebrate the first time you get a cut by just an independent artist somewhere? Why
right.
don't we celebrate the first show you play? Why don't we celebrate the first time you sell a ticket to a show? There's all these little things along the way, and if you
Right.
learn to celebrate that, it makes it a lot more sustainable to get where you're going. And keto and carnivore is no different. When you celebrate losing a pound, you understand what it means to say, I'm worth doing this. When you
Right.
celebrate your first 10 pounds, when you celebrate your first 50, your first 100, when you celebrate going a week without soda. I mean, like, whatever the thing is that you see that as an accomplishment, celebrate that and love yourself for it because that is a great step to the next step.
Right. Susie has a question for you. What are family gatherings like for you and Ash? Do you bring your own food or have folks over to your place for carnivore, keto cookouts?
Yeah. So we do a combination of things. We, generally speaking, I try to get people to come over here to cook. No insult to anybody else, but I'm pretty doggone good at that. And when I want to know the food is really good, I like people that come here because I take care of the cooking. The other thing is if we're going somewhere and I'm a little concerned about what's going to be available, I do two things. One, I take stuff with me that I can eat that I know is good. And you don't have to tell people that it's keto or carnivore. Just make something that's really good. There's a lot of keto and carnivore foods that even people on standard American diets love and eat. So just take some things that you know you can have. Also, if I'm going along and the whole point is the social aspect and it's not really about the food, I'll pregame. I'll eat like some sausages and some eggs or something like that before I
Yep.
leave the house so I can go and I can eat a little bit of the things that are okay for me to eat, but I don't have to worry about, well, how am I going to be fed? And I can just worry about interacting with people and I just don't draw any attention to it.
Hmm.
Yep. That's like
And
they
let's
had
oh, go ahead, Cindy.
we had a bowling party at the holiday on the holidays for the ladies league that I'm in, and they were all bringing a dish.
Hmm.
Well, I knew there was nothing there if I didn't bring something that I could eat with them.
Hmm.
So I made up a meat and cheese tray,
Hmm.
and I made some um, keto fudge or keto chow fudge,
Hmm.
and I brought that. So I knew I had that I could eat,
Right, right.
and while everybody else is with everything else.
Hmm.
So, there's that. It's same instances when you're going, to dinner somewhere.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Bring something you can eat, like you said,
Hmm.
or eat before you go so you're full and it's like, I'm just not hungry.
Yep.
Yeah. And
And
I was just gonna say, let's not forget, it's real food. That's
Mhm.
what we gotta think. You know, is the focus different than our focus on the standard American diet? Absolutely, because we're staying away from anything processed, anything that has like a decade shelf life. Think of it this way, it is real food. So
Hmm.
even if you are making anything, special that's proper human diet, it's real food. I mean, that's literally how people are going to look at it. Simple ingredient, it is just real food. Think of it
Hmm.
that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another question, Chris. Do you drink coffee with cream?
Yes, I do. So this goes back to kind of that dealing with addiction and understanding how to do this in steps for me. So I've loved coffee of many varieties for a lot of my life. And when I cut out, I also loved soda for many years of my life. When I cut out soda and I cut out snack cakes and I cut out chips and I cut out potatoes of all varieties and I cut out bread and I cut out pasta and then I took out the sugar and the different things I was cooking with there. And then suddenly I'm not using tomato sauce, and now I'm cutting out this, and now I'm cutting out that, and now I'm cutting out something else. It starts becoming very overwhelming if you're not careful of, man, it's like I can't have anything.
Hmm.
And it's not that you can't have anything, but your brain will tell you that because you're changing your perspective so much. So for me, coffee was one of those things of, I'm not going to worry about that right now, because sitting and sipping on my coffee in the morning is, it's a ritual for me. It's a ritual. It's a very relaxing, enjoyable thing. I love the way it tastes. So I, after a while on carnivore, I did a little bit of time no coffee. Like I went no coffee, and I did my thing. And then after I'd been off, I think it was like, it was almost 2.5 months, I think. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it. And I put some coffee back in, and I actually felt a little better and a little more like,
Mhm.
hey, this is nice, and it wasn't like jittery or, going wild or anything. And I've significantly cut down the amount of coffee, so I'm not getting near as much cream as I used to, or near as much caffeine. But I still have that little bit because not having the cream in my coffee in the morning didn't change the way I was losing weight at all.
Right.
It was
Right.
the exact same. It didn't make me feel anything else in my health that was better. Now, for some
Right.
people, that may be a thing, and if you do that and you cut it out and it makes you feel better, great. I think that's wonderful. For me, it didn't. So I sort of looked at it like, either having the coffee or not having the coffee, having the cream or not having the cream is not a thing that I have to worry about. Or if it is, I'm not there yet in my health journey, because there's
Right.
other things that are more important still.
Hmm.
And when
Right.
I get those under control, then maybe I'll try the coffee and, no cream, or maybe just no coffee at all again. But
Yeah.
for
Right.
right now, it's not an
Well,
issue
that's
for me.
like the 3.5 years that I've been on keto. There was only 31 days out of that 3.5 years
Hmm.
that I gave up my Diet Pepsi. I
Hmm.
don't drink coffee. I don't drink tea. That's my only thing that I never gave up, except when I did beef, butter, bacon, and eggs.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That was it. And I'm fine.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There's been so much health benefits,
Hmm.
regardless that I still drink the diet soda.
Right.
Right.
So everybody has something and
Yeah.
they got to find something. But to say
Right.
carnivores don't drink coffee, that's
Yeah.
like,
And I would
you
just say,
know,
like with the cream, only if you're experiencing a stall, and I'm not just talking about a stall on the scale, I'm talking about a stall in your healing.
Hmm.
You may want to look at how much cream you're adding, because just for anyone that is not so familiar with the labeling, you might see some creamers say that it's zero total carbs. But please understand the guidelines per serving. If it is less than 1 gram, they are allowed to put zero.
Hmm.
And
just
that's
like they
per
say,
serving.
consider it one carb. That's all.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So if you're experiencing any stalls with your healing, definitely you may want to experiment. As Dr. Barry and Nurse Nisha say, definitely do your N=1 experimenting and see possibly if it's anything, such as, the creamer. That's the only thing that I would say about including, coffee, is definitely be careful of how much sweetener alternative you're putting and how much creamer as well, because that could definitely cause some stalls on your healing.
Even
Absolutely.
coffee.
For some, yeah.
Sorry,
For some,
sorry.
the
No, I was
caffeine.
just mocking the way you said coffee.
Oh,
I said even coffee. Marie, my husband's coworkers are jealous of him because we eat ribeyes, big juicy burger patties, and a lot of smoked meats. Exactly.
Hmm.
it's a
That's
good living. Yeah.
Yep. Just made a batch of butter mayo. My yolk and vinegar mustard never got thick like yours. I went ahead and put the white in last, and then it looked like yours, hoping it sets correctly. Thoughts?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So when you put the yolk and the butter in, if it's not emulsifying correctly, it could be that you're adding the butter too fast. It could also be, depending on the container it
Hmm.
in, if it sits too low, it will not get to the blades of your stick blender until the butter comes up to a certain amount. So you basically would start with too much butter. The other thing is, sometimes, depending on how hot your butter is, if it's way, way, way hotter than mine is, it may still look fairly liquidy, even if it's emulsified, because it's still burning, burning hot. So if you added the white in and it basically looks the same, then what I would say is go ahead and put it in the fridge overnight and give it a day. If it comes out and it's perfect, great, then it was probably the temperature of the butter. If it comes out and it's way too liquidy, then it may be the size of your eggs or perhaps the measurement of the butter, because that ratio can affect that a little bit. So try a little bit less white. Next time you can pour the white off into a bowl, whisk it up with a fork, and then take a spoon out or whatever. The other thing is, when you make it, make sure you have a narrow and tall container. That's why I use the pint-sized mason jars, because those fit my stick blender perfectly. And if you get any kind of separation or chunky look, or sometimes even if it just doesn't seem to get thick in the first place, it's very possible that the butter is being added too fast, and so it's splitting. It's not emulsifying properly with the egg yolk. So it's hard to be patient that first time, and you'll learn it with experience. But you just have to really slowly incorporate that butter and make sure that the container allows you to do that. And for some people, that means they have to make a double batch. But here's the deal. It lasts at least a good week and a half to 2 weeks in the fridge, and it's so good, I've never had any of it go bad, even come close. So
It is amazing. I did make that too. That was great. And it worked the first time. I was so proud of myself.
It's great stuff.
Tell Chris, Pam, and Tony say hi.
That's my parents.
Well, hello, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
Hi, Cindy, Sana, and Chris. I started carnivore October 2nd, 23. I was 18/6 intermittent fasting already. Did 3 days carb, 3 days sad for 9 weeks. Then switched to full-time carnivore. It was super easy. Now down 60 pounds. That's amazing, Rick.
You see,
that's a great example of that collective
Right.
benefit of carnivore across time. Even when you're eating sad, some days you're still benefiting from eating carnivore those other days, and then it makes the transition to full carnivore easier. That's a perfect example of how you can do it.
Yep. Chris, what is your advice for a novice cook who wants to try your recipes but is kind of intimidated by the different ingredients and techniques?
Yeah.
John Gugahan, you just got to do it.
Yeah. There's one of the things that I think, this is the reason I've always wanted to do a cooking channel in general, but now especially I'm really passionate about this for keto and carnivore. We live in a society where we have forgotten how to cook. And it's, and this is not anyone's fault. This is just what society is around us. And so we have lost the ability to do these things because we haven't been taught by someone else to do them. So I'm trying to teach people to do it. But what you have to sort of realize is there's two things you have to really understand. Number one is every single detail that I put in my videos about my recipes or in my written recipes, as minor or minute of a thing as I'm saying that may seem to be, it's all in there for a reason. So if you follow every single thing exactly the way that I do, I've tested those recipes, they will work. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't other variables that may cause it to fail, but if it fails, that's okay. This is why I respond to every single comment on my YouTube channel as best I possibly can. If you have an issue, you send me a message or you leave a comment or something, and I will help you diagnose it. But we have to just sort of go out into uncharted territory to learn to do new recipes. That's just the way cooking works. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. The other thing you can do is you can come to my live streams that I do on Tuesdays, because I do a live cooking thing every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. One of the reasons I started doing that is so you can come and live, you can ask me questions as I'm cooking, and I'm more than happy to answer those if I can. But the other thing is you have to realize in the kitchen, experience is what teaches you to be a great cook. So you're not going to start out ever feeling confident until you've done it. This is the same thing with guitar students when I'm teaching people to play guitar. You don't start out being good at the guitar, and you don't start out feeling confident in the kitchen. You start out scared to death that you're going to screw it up, but you want it so bad you do it anyway, and then you realize it's actually fun. And you know what? I've had plenty of screw ups in the kitchen along the way. Like I mess up recipes and it's like, oh, that didn't work very well. I've had my own burger buns fall coming out of the oven because I've had to play with ratios because the humidity was different that day. I believe me, running a sourdough bakery, that used to be a really big thing. And I mean, I had clients waiting on their orders. And I'm trying to figure out why it's not working. ingredients being weird or things you're not experienced with or things that seem intimidating, if you're not sure if it's the right ingredient, again, send me a message or a comment. I'll be glad to, make sure you get the right one. But they're odd ingredients, but you will gain confidence by working with them. And
Right.
it's about getting in the kitchen, having fun. And if it's a
Mhm.
new recipe, make sure you have a backup plan in
Yeah.
case it fails, so you can throw a burger patty in the oven or something real quick. That's what I do. I just have stuff in the fridge that if it fails, I can pull it out real
Mhm.
quick. And if you have a little bit of a safety net, like just go for it. Like if you fail, it's okay. It doesn't
Right.
matter.
I have a question that goes along with this.
Hmm.
Back to the techniques. How many tries did it take you to get those mashed potatoes out of eggs?
This is probably going to sound unbelievable, but two. Um,
I when I made them, it was, I mean, strictly by your recipe, by
mhm.
your way, and they were perfect.
Yeah,
It was like, oh my word, this is
yeah.
crazy.
I made, this is what really started that whole thing. This is kind of funny. So, Two Crazy Ketos have their version of the egg pudding that Maria Emmerich does, where
Mhm.
she does it with hard-boiled eggs and they do it with scrambled eggs. So I took their egg pudding and I made a chocolate version of it for my brother-in-law because he was having his wisdom teeth taken out and he needed something to eat, but he was trying not to eat a bunch of heavy carb-laden stuff. And I thought, well, I'll make this for him. And he ate it and he was like, this is the best chocolate pudding I've ever eaten in my entire life. Like better than anything else I've ever had. He's like, I don't care if it's keto, if it's carnivore, if it's whatever the heck this is, it's the greatest thing.
Right.
So I thought, well, I would like some of this. But at the time I was doing my 365 where I was doing like no chocolate, no sweeteners, no nothing.
Mhm.
And so I thought, okay, well, instead of blending this up with like cream and chocolate and, sweeteners of some kind, I'm going to blend it up with chicken bone broth and I'm going to make a
Mhm.
savory version. So I did. I didn't add enough bone broth the first time, so it came out real thick. And I tasted a spoon of it, and the texture, I was like, well, that's kind of reminiscent of something I feel, uh, like I really like. What the heck is that? And so I added some more broth and I made it more like the pudding texture. And then I got thinking about it and I was like, son of a gun, that's the same texture as mashed potatoes. And so then
Wow,
I
that's
thought, well,
amazing.
how do you make it taste that way though? Because that's a completely different thing. And then that
Mhm.
that led me down a whole rabbit
Mm.
hole of the egg whites and cooking out the sulfur gas and trying to get all the egg flavor out and then using the dairy to replace the milk that I used to make
Yeah.
mashed potatoes with and figuring out the right salt levels. And then I thought, but potatoes have this earthy sort of thing going on, and it's a very
Yeah.
subtle note in the background, but it's there. I toasted some gelatin because I was trying to figure out if there was a way to use that in like lard or tallow or something else and come up with what would be a carnivore version of a sesame oil. And it didn't do that, but I tasted a piece of the gelatin because it got crispy because I was cooking it with the oil. It got like this crispy, weird texture. And I just tasted it just to see what it was, and I was like, "Oh, that's terrible." And I was like, "Wait a minute, that's kind of earthy flavored." And I thought, "I
Mhm.
wonder if I can do this." And so I toasted
Yeah.
gelatin, and I tasted some of it. And this is why I tell
Yeah.
people in the video, don't taste it by itself. It does not smell good. It does not taste good. But make it,
Yeah.
add it into that pudding mixture, and I used
Mhm.
egg whites that I'd cooked all the sulfur out of, and the dairy. I put it all together with a bunch of butter, and I ate it. And the very second time, I was like, "That tastes like mashed potatoes."
Your mom was on that video, wasn't she?
She
And tasted
was.
them. Yep.
Yeah, they happened to be coming through, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to film this, and who better than the person who
Right.
taught me how to make your grandma's mashed potatoes?"
That's right. Bruce has a question. Chris, I found picanha at the store this week. Have you done
Oh,
one
so
and any
delicious.
recommendations?
Yes, I love picanha.
Yes. Mhm.
Um, just oh, the queen of
It's so
steaks, as they
good.
call it, is
Yes. Such
unbelievable.
fatty goodness. Oh
The
my goodness.
fat cap on top of that
Yes.
is just incredible. So
Amazing.
here's what I would do if it was my picanha. And if you want to share it, it can be my picanha. But if you're going to cook a picanha, this is what I would do. Um, Salt it on both sides, just
Mhm.
the amount of salt as if you were going to eat it. Put it on a cooling rack. stick it in the refrigerator for 24 hours uncovered so that air can circulate all around it and let it dry brine. Take it out. If you have a sous vide, that's my favorite way to do it. But if you don't have a sous vide, you can do it in an oven, like a low oven. And you got to temp the inside and make sure you don't overdo it. But you roast it and you get it the right temperature, wherever it is you like it. If you want it medium rare, medium, please don't say well done. But, I love you anyway, even if you do. But rare, medium, somewhere in there. Get it to that temperature. Take it out of the oven. Let it cool just a little because you don't want to overcook it. And then if you're doing sous vide like I do, you flame torch it or you can sear it in a hot skillet. If you're not doing sous vide, I would recommend the really, really hot skillet technique, and I would start it on that fat cap side and get that fat cap caramelized. And you flip it over to the other side just a little bit just to get it on there. Pull it off, let it rest for 5 minutes wrapped in foil, and cut that baby in slices and go to town.
When I was talking about the chocolate and the donuts. Sorry, Rick. And somebody wants you to lean forward a bit.
Lean forward a bit. Well, my hat says Chris Cooking Nashville, and my shirt, my wife actually got this for me, says
Eat more beef.
Eat more beef and support your local farmers and ranchers.
Hi from Connecticut. Hi, Karen. And your parents that did it in the Dash mini waffle must have made the pancake batter in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had several
Very
people that have
good.
sent me pictures of that coming out of a waffle maker, and you
Mhm.
just don't add extra water to it. Just let it be a little thicker, so it's more like a waffle batter, and it turns out great. It looks like.
Nice. The Tundra Terror. How many grams of shrimp do you use in your mac and cheese recipe?
Hey, I actually saw your question and did not get a chance to answer it in the comment you left on the video, but I did not weigh my shrimp. And the thing is about weighing seafood is seafood's water content can vary widely. So weight with seafood when you're using it as an internal ingredient like this can be a little precarious. What I would suggest you do, because it's really not about the liquid in the seafood, it's about the proteins and how many of them there are. I would say take your shrimp, cut them into, if they're larger shrimp and they're not the little salad shrimp, cut them into like 3 or maybe even 4 pieces, depending on how big they are. Do the volume measurement in the measuring cup, like I suggest in the video, with those chopped pieces. Just kind of drop them in there loosely. Fill up the measuring cup. Don't compress them. Just let it fill the measuring cup. Whatever. Do that volume measurement because you'll get a more accurate representation of the amount of the protein strands than worrying about the weight, where you could have really wet waterlogged shrimp or you could have really dry shrimp that could really affect the weight. So I would suggest the volume measurement, but just chop them into pieces to measure.
Nice. I haven't tried that yet. I'm going to have to.
That's a fun one.
Annette Monty, 89 days carnivore today. Super excited. Yay.
Rock on, Annette.
How do you feel, Annette? Jujubee, hi. If you eat 3 times a day, that's 90 opportunities to eat a month. Is 89 out of 90 or 88 out of 90 on a test a good grade? Heck yeah. Only matters if you choose to get back up again. That's
Yes.
so true.
Great perspective.
Yes, Jujubee is on my in my comment section quite regularly on my
Mhm.
videos, and she has some fantastic little nuggets of wisdom like that.
Yep. Darth Carnivore, this is Charlie. $7.99 a pound for ribeye roast at Kroger's.
Great deal.
BBBE isn't restrictive. There are hundreds of ways to combine those items. Beef doesn't mean just beef. Oh, I know. I get it. But it also means no chicken, no fish, no cheese. So for me, it was a little bit restrictive. But I did it. 31 days.
There you go.
I did keto first a couple years ago, went from 232 to 175, but I haven't been sticking to it a couple years, and I'm back to 190.
So here's something I'm going to say about that, because as someone who gained a bunch of weight that I had lost back, so you were at 232 and now you're at 190. So that's another almost 42 pounds that you have still kept off.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of focusing on the going from 175 to 190, instead of that 15 pounds, think about how great that other 42 pounds that's still gone is. because
That's
that
right.
helps you get the perspective of,
Yes.
okay, this may not be perfect, but look
Mm-hmm.
at the change I'm still hanging on to. My body is
Right.
fighting for this because it knows that this is good, and I've already
Mm-hmm.
got a jump start on when I did it the first time.
Right.
Exactly.
That
That's
that
great.
maintenance is the toughest part.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Once
Yeah.
once you, even if you're not where you want to be yet. Like I said, I've lost 100 pounds. I put some back on,
Mm-hmm.
or put like 10 pounds, 15 pounds back on. Also,
Hmm.
I still feel good. My blood pressure's still good. But overall, I consider that a huge win because that's still 85 pounds gone
Yeah.
Yeah.
that I've maintained for well over a year. So
Hmm.
there, it's huge
I think
that
it's
you
also
haven't put
very
everything back on. In the
absolutely. It's
past,
also
other diets, you lose weight, you
Mm-hmm.
stop, you put it
Mhm.
back on plus more.
Plus, yeah.
Every
Plus
Yeah.
diet
more.
I've ever been on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also very
And
easy. It's
this
very
is
easy to get
like,
a number.
yeah.
It's very
So
easy to get a number
you're
in your
still doing
mind.
good.
Yeah.
You just know what
You're
you
doing
got to
great.
do. If you want to get back to it, just, you've done it before, just
Yeah.
jump right back in. Can I do 1 or 2 carnivore days to start and work upward? That's how far behind we are. Emily Dollar is selling ribeye steaks. What?
Yeah, I mentioned definitely check the ingredients because I was kind of mind blown when I saw them locally here, but they had some additives in it, like a binding ingredient to make it a steak. So it had like wheat and corn and stuff in it.
Mm.
Oh, that's rude. That's just mean. Chris has so many great ideas to break up the beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. I just made his wonderful burger-sized muffins. They
Mm-hmm.
turned out delicious. I'll tell you, Chris, your recipes would make it a lot easier to stay
Oh, yeah.
carnivore.
Yeah. Well, you know, something that I'm actually going to be starting to do is I'm going to be doing some stuff in Dr. Barry's private group. He and Nisha have asked if I'll come in there from time to time and do some
Mhm.
live cooking videos in there. And one of the things that he specifically asked if I would do is, you know, things with like ground beef and eggs and those kinds of things,
Mhm.
because that's what a lot of people can afford. And also with the BBBE thing, it's great to just have different ways to cook it. And
Right.
so, you know, there's going to be some of this stuff on my YouTube channel as well, but I'm going to be working on, you know, some different recipes that are either BBBE or they're very close to BBBE,
Mm.
just things to give you ideas of ways to do that kind of stuff because it's, you know, I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but beef, butter, bacon, and eggs expanded out into all of the different kinds of foods
Yes.
that actually is. Like you can do a lot
Mhm.
if you're
Mhm.
willing to just take some time to think about creative ways to use all that, and that's something I excel at. So I'll see if I can help some people out doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
don't
I've
just
done.
think of beef, think of what beef, butter, bacon, and egg is. Like in that beef category, there is so much variety because think of all your ruminant animals.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of variety because I did 60 days worth. That's how I first started carnivore, was doing
Mm-hmm.
60 days worth of beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And I did not feel restricted at all because I took advantage of the variety. And you definitely have to think, beef is not just an option. I mean, if you love having beef every single day, definitely go for it. That's what works for
Mm-hmm.
you. But if you're someone that's feeling like you do need the variety, definitely understand it might say beef, but that includes all your ruminant animals.
Mm-hmm.
You can also get creative with just eggs. I did a 7-day egg fast one time. That was interesting
Yeah,
because there's
a
so
lot of
many different
options.
ways. So
Exactly.
many
Yep.
different. Comparing N=1 self experiments in the keto carnivore community can be a blessing and a curse sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep, Charlotte.
Absolutely.
It could be a catch-22 for sure.
I have a bunch of loose skin. Yeah, but you're much healthier than you
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
were.
hopefully it doesn't pain you because I know sometimes with loose skin, people
Mhm.
do have to get it addressed because it does become painful. So hopefully you're not going through any pain with it. I mean, I have loose skin as well. Losing over 147 pounds, it was a
Who
given,
wouldn't? Who
but
wouldn't?
thankfully it doesn't hurt me. So I am blessed that I don't have to get it addressed. I just live with it and see it as a reminder of how
Mm-hmm.
far I've come. And I kind of just changed my mentality.
Yeah.
Probably my old me I would have probably looked at that as being like another form of looking at myself with disgust to have that much loose skin. But change your mentality, change your perspective, see it as a huge victory and a reminder of how far you've come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know for me, when I started losing weight and I'd see like wrinkly little bits
Mm-hmm.
around my stomach and all this kind of stuff, at first that
Right.
kind of bothered me. And
Yeah.
then I stopped and I looked at it and I go, first of all, those are some battle scars of what I've been through,
Yes.
and they're a good reminder of why I don't ever want to go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
And on
Yeah.
top of that, I started to realize too, the old me would care about that because the old me cared about other people thinking I looked pretty.
Right.
And then I stopped and I thought, but the new me knows that I feel healthy. And the only people that I care about thinking I look pretty are the people who don't see things like that as being the definition of me looking pretty.
Exactly.
And if you have loose, saggy skin and you're watching this video with all of us, guess what? You're beautiful just the way you are. And I love the fact that you have loose, saggy skin because that means you've
Yeah.
lost all of the unhealthy
God
stuff that
knows we got
created
it.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amen.
We
Amen
got
to
it.
that.
And
Yeah.
out like Rachel says, I waved twice. Grand Sherry D. Been keto 5 months. Last 2 weeks on carnivore. Weight loss is stalled. Ketones usually 0.4 to 0.5. How do I get higher ketones? The way I got them higher, I have a Keto Mojo and I check it rarely. But when I do, when they're higher is when I've done an extended fast,
Yeah.
or when I was doing beef, butter, bacon, and eggs,
Mm-hmm.
or when I was doing straight carnivore for at least 2 weeks. I mean, that was like, and then I could get them up to 2.0 to 3.0. And, but not everybody can. Like if you watch Two Crazy Ketos, Rachel has some high ketones. Joe does not. Joe's are like this, like what she's saying here.
Mm-hmm.
So not everybody can. And we are not doctors.
Yes.
We're not medical anything in
No.
this chat.
Yeah.
So
Just
it's
advice
straight up
from one
here.
friend to the
Yeah.
other. Yes.
Just
I will
things that
also
we've been through.
I'll also add to this. So I've actually heard
Yes.
Dr. Barry has talked about this. A couple of the other
Mhm.
doctors have talked about this. The level of your ketones is a whole lot less important, according to them, than the
Yes.
fact that you have them. The
Right.
having of ketones means you are in ketosis.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think I know from watching hundreds of hours of his stuff what Dr. Barry would say, and he would say
Right.
one of your biggest assets here is vitamin P, and that's patience. And I know that is so hard
Mm-hmm.
because when I step on the scale and I'm not losing weight, I want to
Right.
lose weight. I want to see it go down. But 2 weeks without weight loss is not even something that he would consider.
Mm-hmm.
He would just say, well, your body's doing something else. Until, for me personally, I'm basically at a point, if I hit 6 months and I
Yeah.
haven't seen the scale move, I might start to say, okay, is there something I need to address?
Right.
But our bodies are so complex. They're doing hundreds, if not thousands, of different things on the inside. And our body doesn't care what the scale says. Our body cares about giving us best health. So if you're doing the things that are keeping you in ketosis, which is where
Mm-hmm.
your body should be, and you're just taking care of yourself, just, have the faith in yourself, have the confidence in yourself to know
Right.
you're doing the right thing, and your body will lose weight when it wants to, and you don't have to try to force it, and you certainly don't
Yeah.
have to think there's something wrong with you that you're not losing weight yet.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm gonna tack on to that. For me, I was 4 years keto before I started carnivore. And we have to kind of remind ourselves, just because we spent some time on any spectrum of the proper human diet, it's still new to carnivore. Your body still is going to have healing that it still sees that needs to be accomplished going from keto to carnivore. So being 2 weeks in a carnivore, please, 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 like I've had this kind of be my mantra on my channel. Do not have the scale be your tell-all be-all as far as when it comes to your victories or your healing, or even if you're doing carnivore the correct way. Don't have that scale make you second guess what you're doing. Be kind to yourself, embrace the simplicity of what carnivore truly can bring to you, but do not have the scale or even a ketone meter,
Mhm.
because just like Chris is saying, I've heard Dr. Barry mention it a bunch of times, do not focus on the scale. Do not focus on a ketone meter. You are going to stress yourself out, and you don't need that, because it is going to have you second guess if you have to make any changes. But like Chris is saying, you probably just need the patience is all you need,
Mhm.
because 2 weeks is still very early on. I can definitely tell you, when it came to my journey with carnivore in the beginning, oh my goodness, I was so happy I took photos in the beginning, because my body's composition is what proved to me that it was working. And in
Mhm.
that first 60 days, people thought I lost probably like 50, 60 plus pounds. I lost 8 pounds. And to see some people say that that looks like 50, 60 pounds, that I probably need to get my scale checked. Yeah, no. My
Mhm.
scale was accurate, it was calibrated, but please do not just focus on the ketometer. Do not just focus on the scale.
Mhm. Yeah, and
All right.
I can tell you a personal version of that for me. I had the shirt I was wearing before I put this one on for a live stream.
Right.
6 weeks ago, I still hadn't put that shirt on because it was one that had gotten too small and like it would stick up and my belly was sticking out
Mm,
from underneath of it. I
right.
haven't worn it in forever and I love it. And just for the fun of it today, I pulled it out of the closet. I put it on, and for the first time, not only does it fit, but there's extra
Yeah.
space in it to the point that Ash took pictures of me that I'm going to post on my YouTube channel. You guys
Right.
will see it. My scale says I've gone up 4 pounds.
You say,
Great.
yeah. And people have to realize muscle weighs more.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it that way. Muscle will weigh more. So don't think it's necessarily fat that you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing that increase on the scale.
All right, I'm going to try to get through these comments. I don't know how you're doing with time, Chris.
Oh, I'm fine, and my mom's an English teacher, so I can talk at length.
I never thought I'd be down 90 pounds as an adult. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
BA Beater, I've lost 155 pounds from 500 in mid-August of last year. That is awesome.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's amazing for sure. All right, congrats everyone. Been keto carnivore for 4 years, in better shape at 57 than I was at 40. Yep. I feel that way with doing
Yeah.
keto. Did
It
you all have a
definitely
problem with
reverses
keto
any of
or
the time.
carnivore with bowel movements? My honey is eating keto, but still eating bran cereal for supper. I never had any issues. Still don't. It's like
I didn't
clockwork.
I didn't have any issues with keto, but let me tell you what, when I went carnivore for that first 2 weeks, they say, pardon me, but they say never trust a fart. That is a good piece of advice
Yeah.
on the first couple of weeks of carnivore. And I mean, once I was on it for a few weeks, that
Mm,
all totally went away. And I actually have irritable bowel syndrome. I've struggled with these things like sudden urgency and
yeah.
issues, and I mean, like all of this stuff, my whole life gone,
Mm,
That's
totally gone.
that's awesome.
yeah.
Use
For me, I
miracle.
did in keto, when I got close to like my 3-year mark, I think probably like whatever veggies, or probably even like the quantity of veggies I was incorporating on keto, they still started giving me IBS issues. Going to carnivore, I had like 3 days of being best friends with the toilet.
Hmm.
And then it was like basically like clean slate
Yeah.
after that 3 days. So everyone's going to be very different.
Hmm.
I was, he asked that a second time
Yep.
because I've been through here. I lost 50 pounds in 5 months, been stuck for the last 3 weeks. Yep. It happens. Just stick
Hmm.
with it. Just and be patient, like you said.
Absolutely.
I love cream in my coffee. Hilo chips are really good. 5 carbs a bag. That's my go-to chip. Great variety of flavors.
Yeah. You
That
definitely
and
have to
Quest
incorporate
chips
what works
too.
for you.
Changing my coffee was my first keto thing. No milk
Mm,
or sugar, just cream.
Hmm.
I only drink water and sparkling water.
Yeah, love the
Here's
sparkling
a
water.
super chat for you, Chris. Maggie, the substitute
Oh,
teacher, supporting Chris and his amazing recipes.
yes, that's so Maggie, the substitute teacher. She does a bunch of. I actually just found her because she did one of my recipes. She is a very sweet lady, has an incredible channel, and she does things that are gluten free and dairy free. It's not all just like low carb type stuff. Like she kind
Mhm.
of goes a whole gamut for people that are searching for different things, and she tries out recipes.
Oh, very
And
cool.
she's a good example of a person who's like, I'm not a professional cook.
Yeah,
I'm just a mom and I'm a YouTube, mom who's just kind of
right.
doing this stuff and she does it live and like, she doesn't always feel super confident with those recipes, but she works her way through them and man, she does a good job and she is so funny and entertaining. You guys should check her out too. She's great.
Well, can you put her
Very
channel
cool.
up there, Sana?
Yep. Yep. On it now.
We definitely promote. We're small channels ourselves, but we
No,
definitely
absolutely.
support everybody's.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Anyone that
Thanks,
wants to
Chris.
share
It's
their
in the fridge. I
journey.
did it in a mason jar like you, so I think I probably added too much too fast. The butter was 142
Okay.
degrees.
Your butter was probably also a little bit too cool. You want it up in kind of the 160 to 165 range if possible. So next time, just feel free to kick it back in the microwave or in the pan or whatever you need to do. But hopefully it should set up for you.
And here's another one for you, super sticker. All right, there's that one. Chris, you're such a cool guy. I
Oh,
agree.
I'm just a big
Yep.
goober, but I
Agreed.
appreciate the compliment.
I'm psyched that you're going to be at KPL. That'll be fun.
I'm
It's
really
such a
excited.
great. It's such a great. It's so much better than a regular convention.
Hmm.
Mm.
It's more personable. It's more fun.
Yeah.
It's so and the way Autumn does it is so regimented,
Hmm.
and it's great. It's just great.
I'm looking forward to it for sure, especially getting to meet everybody, like actually in person, not with pixels in the way.
Yeah. Going to make burger buns soon to see if my 79-year-old dad likes them. My mom is on board with me now, mostly carne. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
What do you do on your pancakes that is keto? What do you put on? I'm sorry. What do you put on your pancakes that is keto?
Yeah. So in the recipe video there, I've got the keto syrup that's made from allulose. So that is one option. The other thing you can do, which is really cool, I think, you can go get any kind of like if you like fruit of any kind that is like more of the keto versions of fruit, like the berries and that kind of stuff that are lower carb. You can smash those up. Figure out how many you want to have for
Mhm.
yourself, put them in a pan and you smash them up and you cook them over some low heat with just a little splash of water and you can cook those down until they get kind of thick and bubbly and you can put a fruit syrup right over top of your pancakes too and it's like super easy and
Yeah.
man does it taste good.
That's what I do for my keto kids. I do like a compote and they like cream cheese spread on it and then I'll put the compote on it and oh my gosh.
This sounds
They're in
great.
heaven with it.
Mhm.
Now, I'm easy. I've never used syrup on my pancakes or waffles or anything. Just butter.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's all I've ever done, even as a kid.
Good old
That's
butter, yeah.
just signed on. What is the egg white powder does Chris use for the burger buns?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, there's a number of different brands out there that work really well. What I've been using lately is Now NOW brand egg white powder, and the reason I've been using that, not that it's particularly different than the others, a lot of times if you watch Amazon, they will throw their egg white powder on sale from time to time, and when it goes on sale, I get the big
Grab
ones.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not the cheapest stuff. I get it, but most of my
Right.
recipes, I only use a few tablespoons of it. So if you get a big container,
Yeah.
you're going to get a bunch of recipes out of that one
Right.
container. And that's why I try to limit how much of it I use because it is expensive.
Mhm.
But I use Now brand.
Mhm.
I'm actually talking with Rose Acre Farms. They're another brand, and I'm going to see if maybe I can't get a discount code for people. So we'll see what I can do there. But that's a couple of brands I would recommend.
Yeah, that's what I use too. But I
Yeah.
always also make egg white bread.
Hmm.
So I still have 3 big, the 5-pound containers
Yep,
in the closet.
I've got 2 of them right now.
When it goes on sale, man,
Yeah, you gotta
they had
grab
a
it.
huge sale a while back. I had
Hmm.
picanha today at the steakhouse. Fabulous, my favorite cut of beef.
It's
So
easy to
good.
love.
My husband is smoking that meat, picanha, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, all from California. Here's the link. Debbie has to go. Let me see. Oh, Chris, wait to see those in the PhD community. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't see any more questions. Do you?
Only one for each other. I see Bonita at 7:48. There you go.
If you're eating OMAD and you know you're not getting enough protein in, but not hungry enough to eat more, what do you do about that? Don't eat OMAD if you're not getting enough protein.
I
can't do that.
so I eat OMAD. I would say probably half of the time right now. When I'm doing like real strict carnivore, I eat OMAD almost every day because I'm just not hungry any more than that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that, and this is what was said to me, and this is what I now say to everybody because I found this to be very true. In my opinion, not a doctor, but in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
if you are forcing yourself to do OMAD and you're hungry and you're trying to force enough food in a single meal, but then you can't, and then you know you're under eating, and then later on you're getting hungry and you're forcing yourself, that's probably your body telling you you are not ready to do OMAD.
Exactly.
This is like, this kind of is that thing. If you try to jump straight to the elite top level of carnivore, there can be things along the way that your body is going to fight because
Right.
it is an adjustment period. I started doing OMAD because I have a carnivore quiche recipe, like a crustless quiche on my channel. I used to make those and I'd cut them into 4 pieces and I would take like one or sometimes two of those with me to work and I would eat them in the morning and then I was eating a full meal when I would get home. And I knew it was time to start doing OMAD when I was taking those to work and I was getting like halfway through eating a first piece and I was just like, I really don't want this.
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, I stopped taking them and I
Mm.
naturally fell into eating OMAD. And I was like, by the time I get home from work and I'm wanting to eat my one meal, I'm like, I'm hungry. I'm going to tear up some steak or burger patties or something. Right. And I'm like, man, meat, that's what I do.
Yeah.
But, but until I got to that point,
Mm.
that was not something that I tried to force to happen. I let my body tell me when it was ready. So if you're trying to force OMAD, maybe that's part of the issue.
Yeah.
It'll happen naturally. And if you feel like you're not eating enough, just eat a second meal. It's
Right.
okay.
And you also got to be careful. Like aside from the protein, be careful that you're not under eating because
Mhm.
that's really huge. And like Chris said, I mean, you got to think of why you're doing the fasting.
Mhm.
Really think of the why. Like, are you doing it because you're wanting to get any benefits, like such as autophagy from the fasting? Or are you doing the fasting because you kind of heard it somewhere and you figure, oh, let me start incorporating this?
Mhm.
Really kind of analyze that, I would say, because I can definitely tell you just from experience, I've done every single type of fasting method there is to do out there, even like 7-day fast. And for me, I was not doing it in a healthy manner.
Mhm.
And I am completely fine with admitting that because I had to. I had to come to terms with I was being very unhealthy and I was becoming very obsessive with the fasting.
Mhm.
And I was definitely under eating. I was not
I
giving my body what it truly needed, and I was
Yep.
definitely under eating. Not even considering any factors of getting enough protein in, getting enough fat in. I was not getting enough proper human diet food, period.
Mhm.
Sorry about that. I had to turn my light on. But
Okay.
along with this, I
Hmm.
tried OMAD for about a week. And because of having had gastric bypass years ago, I can't possibly get enough food in one sitting
Mm,
for one meal a day. So I don't know what the circumstances are, Benita, but if you're not getting enough protein in, like I said when I read it, I would just go, I do 2 meals a day all the time
right.
without fail. My husband and I, we never eat first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
We usually don't eat till 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
Right. Mhm.
And then, well, usually we eat before now, but we'll eat after this is over. And that's it. That's what we've done ever since I've started keto, and that was a
Yeah.
while ago now. But yeah, like Chris said, don't force yourself for sure.
No, you can't.
Loose
Mhm.
skin is a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Hi, Becky. I did that same thing when I made mac and cheese, except I did dry my shrimp on a paper
Mm.
towel. Yep. I just started testing with Keto Mojo 3 weeks ago. Lowest ketones reading since starting is 1.5. Highest is 5.2. Average is 2.9. Wow.
Wow.
Highest glucose reading within 2 hours of eating, 111. Average is 92. Dang, those are some good,
Mm-mm.
Yeah, great numbers.
those are high keto numbers, dude.
Great numbers.
Muscle weight 3 times more than fat for the same volume.
Mm. Yeah.
Chris, I have IBS too. I feel ya.
Oh yeah, it's not fun.
Mhm. No, sure isn't.
Sometimes doing a bit of fasting is very helpful to break through weight loss plateaus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta really think of your why and use it as a tool. And that's very much what you're mentioning, to break through a weight loss plateau. That's very much using it as a tool. That's a great example of how to, one of the examples of how to use intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The Mayo did set up, so it's good.
There we
Great,
go.
great.
Yeah, I
It's
thought
so yummy.
when I made it the one time that I did,
Mhm.
I thought the same thing in the beginning, and I told my husband, I said, I'm just gonna put it in the refrigerator
Yeah.
and wait and see how it is later. And it
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
perfect. It
Mhm.
was perfect. Also doing 2 med instead of OMED can help break through weight loss
Yeah.
plateaus. Yep.
Mhm.
Lower insulin spikes.
Mhm.
I want to go to KPL, but can't afford the hotel. The hotel is expensive, but it is beautiful.
And definitely
There's other
check
supplements for
within the
now.
community as well, because I see there's a lot that are sharing. They're doing like Airbnb shares and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
definitely
And
check
keep your
within the
eyes open because
communities.
sometimes people need a roommate
That's
at
what I'm
at
saying. Yeah.
KPL.
Yep.
Even at the
Exactly.
hotel, they've got a room and they could use a roommate to help
Right.
pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What price egg whites when it's on sale? Now I've got the 5 pound. I don't know about you, Chris, but when I got the 5 pound
Mhm.
containers, it was $58
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
That's
5 pounds.
I think that's when I got it as well. I think I
Right.
remember actually maybe I saw you in the comment section when I was buying mine because I let my followers know about it, and I think maybe you had said something like you were getting yours too, at that
Oh
same
yeah.
sale. I think right now they have it's not as good of a deal, but it's still a pretty good deal. I think right now they have the 2 pound container at like 26% off or something like that, and
Yeah,
it
it's
comes out to
1.2 pounds.
yeah,
Laura's
it's
got
like
on here
Mhm.
26.46 on sale.
yeah, that's it's not great, but that's certainly better than the 35,
Oh
40
yeah,
bucks that
than
it
the
can
regular
be.
price. Yup.
So
Yeah. We've just the Now Sports is what I've always used. I don't
Yeah.
think I've used anything else, and I've never been disappointed.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
that's what it's showing on my end for 1.2 pound,
yeah.
26.46 US
Mhm.
dollars.
Yeah.
But that you were talking about your sourdough bread for your bakery.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I was talking to my husband. I said, we both really like sourdough bread. So I took the egg white bread recipe and I had some sour cream powder
Mhm.
and I did some experimenting. And then I backed off I backed off the amount of sour cream that I used the first time. And it was a little bit better. The last time I made it, I used real sour cream instead of the powder.
Mhm.
It's good.
That sounds really
It's
good.
really good.
That sounds
It's really
really
good.
good. That's a
So,
good example of what it is I do. Like I take, here's a recipe or here's a technique or here's a whatever, whether it's from standard American diet or keto carnivore community type stuff or whatever, just take a
mhm.
recipe and then you go, well, what else can you do with this? And you start
Oh
to
yeah.
just twist and experiment and just get in and play in the kitchen and play with ingredients and just see what you can make them do.
Oh yeah. That's why I told Brian, my husband, I said, I've got all this egg white powder. I'm going to start experimenting. And all these other powders that I had bought when I first started. Like
Mhm.
I have sour cream powder, like I said, I have cream cheese powder, I have
Mhm.
cheddar cheese powder, peanut butter powder, the PB Fit powder, that so much.
Sure.
It's just crazy.
And
But
just like you mentioned, Chris, I kind of want to touch on that a little bit. With the people feeling intimidated and having a little bit of fear,
Mhm.
that are not cooks, think about the fear you had when you started this journey on the Proper Human Diet. You can correlate it with that.
Mhm.
Our 15-year-old son, because I homeschool both of our kids,
Mhm.
because with him being 15, I want him to have those skills, not just because, he's growing into a man that he can't, you know, understand what it takes to run a household. He definitely should be able to stand on his own 2 feet as a
Yeah.
man and not expect or have the expectation it's something, a woman does when it
Mhm.
comes to house roles.
Mhm.
Um, and it was scary for him at first as well,
Mhm.
because here, he's still fairly young. And things were not the way it was, when you and I were young, Chris, like you mentioned, the stories with your mother.
Mhm.
I am a cook because of my grandmother. Um, and, it's kind of like in this generation, they don't really get that all the time. So to
Right.
be able to give that to him is like huge for me. But he was very scared at
Mhm.
first. And now he's like creating these recipes based off on, funny enough, some of them were standard American diet recipes.
Mhm.
And we just did the tweaking of using Proper Human Diet ingredients. And he kind of is a little like taken back because he doesn't even realize yet like how amazing he's doing in the kitchen.
Right.
And that's what I have to say to everybody. Don't be too hard on yourself. Even if it doesn't come out looking like Chris's version, I bet you it still tastes amazing.
Yes.
But don't be too hard on yourself in the beginning.
Mhm.
Just like we mentioned with our victories of healing, we have to be patient to
Mhm.
get those. Be patient with the cooking as well. Don't be hard on yourself. It'll definitely come in time. It absolutely will.
Mhm.
That's
and
all of
it's
us. It's the way a learning experience goes.
and it's fun experimenting. And like you
Exactly.
said,
Make
Chris,
it
if it doesn't
fun.
work the first
Yes.
time, you
Make it
can find
fun.
something
Yep.
else to do with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
When I
Absolutely.
was before we moved, just real quick, I was cooking for 7 people.
Hmm.
I was the only one that was keto at the beginning, and then my husband jumped on board. They all liked all the side dishes that I could eat,
All right.
and obviously the protein everybody ate. But if they wanted potatoes, rice, and all that garbage, you know, they paid rent. That went towards the food. I did the grocery shop and I did all the cooking. So, whatever, but that was that. But I'll tell you now, and I don't even say I haven't told you this, Sana. Both of my boys have jumped on the keto train as of last week.
Amazing.
Both of my sons are well over 300 pounds. They both have health issues. And I feel so blessed right now. And I just hope they stick with it.
Yeah, because I know that was
'Cause-
something that was heavy on your heart, because here
Oh,
life-changing it was for you and for Brian.
Mm.
mhm.
Um,
Well, we
and
set the example and they had to
exactly.
on their
Yeah.
own time. But
That's what we
man,
spoke on behalf of. You cannot, it's very much anyone that has any sort of addiction, they have to be the ones to want to change.
Mhm.
yeah, so I'm pleased. But I have sent
Absolutely.
them some of your videos. I've sent them so many videos to watch, and whether they do or not, but just crazy. My watch is talking to me. I'm not sure I understand you.
Yes, I
Here,
just
let me
shared
go
it
off
a few
here,
minutes ago.
and there's our channels. But
Yep.
Sana's going to post them again.
There'll be clickable links. I posted them a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
I'll
once you
go
get
ahead and I'll
those
post them
done,
again.
we are going to wrap this up. It's been almost 2 hours and it just flew by.
Time flies
Eh,
when you're having low carb fun.
yes,
Exactly. Oh,
that's
there's a
right.
question that came in, Cindy.
Yeah, I see that. Oops. Well, this thing keeps jumping on me now. Has anyone created a carnivore friendly taco recipe or spices?
Well, so I have a carnivore tortilla recipe that can be used to make a carnivore taco. In the video, I made a taco for Ash because she's keto. And so I put, veggies on it. But if you don't put the veggies on it and you do like the cheese and the sour cream and that kind of stuff, that is a really good recipe. Um, and I will say, because I know Cindy commented on having trouble getting the tortillas to turn out properly. If you struggle with that, you can always turn your heat up a little bit and you can always add a little bit of extra egg white powder to the tortilla mixture, and that'll help it hold together a little better. So there is that recipe out there. As far as the spices, I mean, carnivore this is one of those things where it's like, okay, which side of the gray area do you want to be on in the spectrum of carnivore? Do you want to lean into the spices or do you want to lean away from them? I did sort of like a almost 90 days meat salt water thing back the first time I did carnivore, and then I went back into spices and different veggies and stuff. That's how I know which ones bother me and which ones don't. So I tend to avoid any of the spices that make me feel funky. So if you do your experimentation and you figure out which spices work for you, you may find that you can go, get taco seasoning at the grocery store and it may still work. Just flip that around and read the back of the ingredients list, because they'd like to sneak a lot of sugar into taco seasonings sometimes. But there is, in fact, Badia, Badia, has a fajita seasoning, I believe, that is like dehydrated spices of various kinds, and there's no sugar on it in that one. So that's one that I like to use, or I just make my own and don't put any sugar into it.
Right. I had found a recipe online actually for keto taco seasoning,
Hmm.
and I made up a big batch of it. And I've
Hmm.
been using that for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it didn't have I don't believe it had any sweeteners or anything in it.
Hmm.
That's been quite a while. But yeah, you can Google anything
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
And
and
it's
find
so
that.
simple. Like
But
taco seasoning is so simple to put together.
I make I brown ground beef up just to have it on
Hmm.
hand. That way
Yeah,
I can scramble it in with eggs. I can make taco meat
exactly.
with it. I
Oh
can
yeah.
do anything with it. I
Hmm.
always we just
Yeah,
use the rest of it up, but I always have some on hand normally.
Yeah.
yeah.
Now I need to make tacos. Jenren, were you able to get those clickable from the chat?
I know she said that
Said
they
they
were
haven't been
not
clickable.
showing clickable.
I think on the screen, she meant on the screen, they're not clickable. When I get rid of the
Yeah,
comments,
hopefully. Yeah, because that's unfortunately the only option
I
I have is
know
through the main chat. So hopefully
that's something
they're
I've made.
clickable for you.
Burger buns, I've stopped using any spice mixes with sugar
Hmm.
and other fillers.
Yeah. And it's amazing how many are labeled as single ingredient seasonings, but when you turn it over and look at the ingredients, there's something wonky in it.
Yes. Yes. Truthfully, one of the best things you can do is buy whole spices. If you find that you
Mm.
want to use spices, buy whole spices. Get yourself a cheap coffee grinder that
Yep,
never sees coffee, that just sees spices, and just grind your own. It's the
yep.
best way to do it if you're really that, like, if you're really concerned about what may be in those things. That's a
Hmm.
super good way to do it. And truthfully, if you buy whole spices, you'll probably save money in the long run.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yes. My husband and I, we just bought 2 coffee grinders. One for him for his coffee and one for him not to touch.
That's what you got to do sometimes.
Yep. Now this Keto Twins with the cheese-based taco shells,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that was today. This video just came out today,
Mm-hmm.
and they mentioned you like 3 times in that video. At least. At least. It was
Oh,
funny. It was
they're
great.
they're so funny. I love them. They are such sweet ladies.
Yeah, because that's what I mentioned. Like I can't from Chris's channel because I'm not a moderator on his end. but I had just asked her if the one in the chat is also not clickable because I think that's what she was referring to earlier.
Yeah, I'll tell you
Right.
something else that I can do if Jen, if you will, I don't know if you're on my channel or one of theirs, but what I'll do is I'm gonna actually take a link to this live stream and pop it into my YouTube community in my posts. I'll put that link on there, and I'll make sure to link Cindy and Sauna's channels both
Thank
there,
you.
so you can just go there and click those.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Chris is a moderator, can post links.
Mhm.
Whoa. Yeah, Sana is my moderator. I'm the one hosting. So she is posting. Whether they're clickable. Any recommendations for gelatin?
Well, I use a lot of it. So I buy
Mhm.
the Now beef gelatin powder as well. I get my egg white powder and my
Yeah.
beef gelatin together on Amazon, and I got the big one because it lasts a long time, and I use it for so many experiments. I go through it. They have several different sizes, but that Now beef gelatin does a really good job.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
use beef gelatin also. I haven't gotten the Now brand of that, but
I use the Equip brand of the beef gelatin. So that is what we've used on this end is
Hmm.
Equip.
yep.
Well, you got
can
some
use-
recipes ahead.
You can use Knox, but beef gelatin is what Chris uses.
Yeah, the Knox will work, but the beef gelatin's just a little higher quality, and
Uh-huh.
some people also don't like pork based. Knox
Right.
gelatin and most of the cheap unflavored
Mhm.
gelatins of all the brands, most of that is pork based. So if you
Pork,
don't
right.
like pork products, or if for either religious or health reasons you can't
Yeah.
use pork products, beef gelatin is your way to go for sure.
Mhm.
All right. She's saying you could just put those in your description box where you
Yeah,
posted this on your channel.
yeah, I'll see if it'll let me do that. I know that sometimes when you're sharing someone else's stream over into a second place, it gets a little funky on YouTube's end, or at least mine seemed like it was. But I'll make sure if I can access
Now,
that
just
do
to link the channels, it should be fine. Because every time your one of your recipes or anybody I mention in my videos,
Mhm.
Mhm.
I always link. If it's a recipe video, I'll put the name
Right.
of the person and their video that it's in.
Yeah.
And I've never had a problem with doing
Yeah.
that.
So
If
interesting
YouTube
enough,
wants to flag
Robin
me with that, it's like,
is saying they are clickable on her side. So I
Okay,
don't
so
know
they
if there's
should be.
something specific. Yeah, I don't know if there's something going
I
on.
don't know. What Jen
Yeah.
Scraps? I'm a YouTuber. You want to throw her channel up there? It's a crafting one. Hey, crafting is
That's
good.
okay. Exactly. Yeah.
There's another one, Crafty and Carnivorish, who has a second channel that's a crafting channel too. So
Yeah.
she's carnivore and crafter
Nice.
as well. So yes. But anyway, this has gone way longer than I anticipated. And that's great. That's great. But it is Friday night. And I do
Yeah.
appreciate everyone's time who visited the chat, who participated in the chat, and especially for Chris for being here. I can't thank you enough.
Oh,
When you told me yes, when I asked you, I was like, yes. I said, Sana, guess who's gonna be on?
We were so excited and giddy.
oh, you all are
I
so
was like-
sweet. Y'all are so sweet. Ash and I were talking before the live stream, and
Is she around? She could
she-
pop in and say hi.
I think she's probably she might have dozed off. She's not been feeling well the last few days, so she's
Oh,
probably
so
laying in
sorry to
bed. So
hear.
she's getting better, but we were we're taking care of her. But I'm sure the dog is probably in there taking care of her. But but so she and I were talking about me doing this or whatever. And I said, these two ladies, I was like, they're so sweet. And I was like, I see their names pop up all over the place in the keto and carnivore world. And I was like, this should be a lot of fun because I was like, pretty sure like everyone has to know who these two are. They're everywhere. They're always commenting and supporting everyone's channels. And I said, this should be a lot of fun. So
That's because for me personally, I have no life. So I have to
Listen, you deserve that retirement. You stop that.
it's like, other than bowling 3 nights a week, or 3 leagues a week, which is why I can't ever catch your Tuesday live. That's one of them.
Sure.
But I always go back and watch them because I always find something new.
Oh, you're very very sweet. I'm just so glad that you guys asked me to hop on here and do this with you.
Well, I appreciate it, and I know Sana
Yeah.
does too. Appreciate
No,
you being here.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you
But
so much to everybody because especially for a
yes,
Friday night, you could be doing anything with your Friday night. So even any little bit of time that you spent in the chat, we appreciate you. Thank you so, so much. And
Hmm.
also for Easter, anybody that does celebrate,
have a
happy
very
Easter.
happy Easter.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Good night, everybody.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.